Welcome to Faith Talks Wood podcast. I am Tom from Mountain Valley Baker, and this week I'm bringing the message solo so Will can prepare for going out of town with his family and get some extra time there with his wife and kids. I been crazy busy this week with work and the farm. I starting I should say a new job. It's a new job to me, but a second job to help supplement the income while my wife takes care of her mom and to help me pay for my daughter's tuition. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But I've been busy on the farm this week and then getting design work done for a greenhouse I'm going to start building and working on stuff in the garden. And then a little bit in the shop, but not as much as I'd like. But I've got something that's really been on my heart this week, and I'm sure you guys with social media and the news have seen the same things over and over and over again. And I want to talk today about work and the godly perspective. What does the Bible say about work, and what the things that we hear in the media? Everybody all over the media is constantly complaining about billionaires and corporations and them having too much money, or they like to say that we're slave labor for the corporations and the billionaires, and complaining about how much Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or any of the other billionaires have, and how I even saw one post about if Elon Musk gave everybody $1 million and this in America and this and that, and I disagree with that stuff. Like, he earned it, I didn't earn it, and I think corporations, while there's certainly greed in corporations, and some of the billionaires greed, there's also billionaires and corporations that do an insane amount of good. And so it could be good or it can be bad, but it doesn't matter because what matters is what God's word says about it. Other thing we've heard about work, I don't know if you guys heard, Bernie Sanders has introduced a bill wanting to introduce the 4-day work week. And while that sounds like a dream to get to make a full living and only go work 4 days a week, what does the Bible say about the 4-day work week? And we'll dive into that. And then the other thing that has been all over the news is the fraud in government handouts in the Social Security and Medicare, Medicaid, and food stamps and all the different programs. There's way too many of them. But everybody seems to want something free. They want free food, free housing, free cell phones, free medical, free college, and everything else that you could possibly think of. And drives me crazy when I hear people protesting for all this free stuff. But what does the Bible say about handouts and free stuff? So that's kind of what we're going to dive in today and talk about is what does the Bible talk about these billionaires and corporations? While it might not mention the word Amazon or Walmart, it does talk about the rich, and it does talk about work, and it does talk about free stuff. So let's dive into it. I'm going to kind of be all over the Bible today in a bunch of different scriptures. The vast majority of them I'm going to read from my ESV, but there's one passage toward the end that I am going to read in my NLT just because I kind of like the way it's worded. It says the same thing, just worded a little different. But let's start from the beginning. In Genesis 2, verse 15, it says, "The Lord God took man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and keep it." So ever since the very first person on earth, we were designed to work. It didn't say he put him into the garden to enjoy the fruits, which of course it does say that. It tells us to take dominion over everything and to eat of it all. But it said that he put him there to work it and keep it. And so he placed him in the garden, not to just to walk around and pick berries and eat apples, but to work the garden and keep it. So we were designed to work right from the very beginning. And if you think about it, who are we designed after? God. We're designed in God's own image. Well, who made heaven and earth? Who created the stars, the moon, the earth, separated the land and the waters, created all the animals, all the fruits and vegetables, all the wildlife, and us? God. That was work. And so we are modeled after God, and we are designed to do work. Well, who are we designed to do work for? Over in Proverbs 16:3, it says, commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established. So God designed us to work, but he designed us to bring glory to him. And so whether we're an electrician, a plumber, IT director like Will, or a sign maker like me, or a doctor, lawyer, owner of Amazon, Walmart, whatever, we were designed to work, but to do it for the Lord. And that is what separates Christians from non-Christians. And I think it also is what allows us to find joy and to work differently in the same exact job than those who don't believe. Pardon me, I'm going to take a quick sip of water here. But if you're doing it for the Lord, even though it may not be your dream job, you can find joy in it. And so we were designed to work, and we were designed to work for the Lord. Well, how were we supposed to work? Well, Colossians 3:23 says, whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men. Ecclesiastes 9:10 says, whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might. So we were designed to work. We were designed to work for the Lord, and we were designed to work hard. It doesn't tell us to easily work. It says work heartily. Do it with your might. So work wasn't supposed to be easy from the very beginning. So doing it with everything we have. Now, granted, a guy that has to dig a ditch with a shovel, or an electrician that's got to pull wire, or a plumber crawling up under a house, those jobs might seem much more physically hard than, say, the lawyer that we consider just pushing paper. So it's not necessarily about physical labor, which some of us do. But Will works on computers. I climb ladders and install signs, but he used to work on that computer with all his might to do the very best that he can to make that IT system run its absolute best and perform its best for that bank. Whereas I'm to install a sign to my very best to make it look good, to make it last, to make it do what it's supposed to do for the customer and advertisement, and whatever it is you do for a living, whether it's woodworking or something in the medical field, doesn't matter. We're supposed to do it with our might. So we were designed for work. We were designed to work for the Lord, and we were designed to work hard. Next question is, how much were we designed to work? So Bernie Sanders says that we should have a 4-day work week. So we should have 3 days that we could just go play or rest. But what does the word say about it? So if we go back into the 10 Commandments, it talks about honoring the Sabbath, but there in Exodus 29-10, where it's talking about, it says 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall do no work. So God designed us to work 6 days a week, and he designed us to take a day of rest and devote that day to him. So 4 days does not work into God's plan like that. Now, some of us might have jobs where I know a lot of firemen and EMT type people where they work 24-hour shifts and then are off 24. Or I know people that have jobs where they work 3 12-hour shifts and then off a couple days. And I know people that do have 4-day work weeks, but they're not 4 little wimpy 8-hour days and then they get 3 days off. Typically, they're working longer days those days, and just depends on the company you work for. So while there's certainly nothing wrong with that, we weren't designed to be lazy and just only work half the week. So for what Bernie Sanders is proposing, it is not biblical. We were designed to work 6 days and have a day of rest. The Bible also talks about taking I didn't grab all these scriptures, but there are times in the Bible where it talks about like the end of harvest season and where they had, a week or two of celebrations, celebrating the harvest. So they were working these long harvest, planting and then harvesting seasons. And at the end of it, they'd have a week-long, 2 weeks, sometimes 3 celebrations. So we could kind of consider that like a vacation in modern day times. And so certainly that was in God's plan that at the end of a long period of hard work, that there would be a celebration for it, some time off out of the field of planting and picking and harvesting and doing all the stuff that goes along with that. And, I find it ironic that Chick-fil-A and Hobby Lobby, 2 of the most successful corporations in America in the fast food industry, Chick-fil-A is the most successful when you look at profitability and what they're able to do in 6 days versus, what Burger King and others try to do in 7 days, some of them 7 days, 24 hours a day. Chick-fil-A has set an example, and man, you walk into that place and the customer service at a Chick-fil-A store is so different than all the others. The people working there are much happier. And I do think when you follow God's plan and you keep it down to 6 days and you take that day off of rest and dedicate it to the Lord, that's what's going to happen. Hobby Lobby, same thing. Very successful, closed on Sundays, and they have proven that you can work hard 6 days a week, take a day off, and thrive. So let's talk about the free handouts. And, we hear all this marching in the streets about free this, free that, and we should have universal health care, free health care for all, Bernie says, and free college tuition, education is a right, and so on and so forth. And over half of our government budget comes from the social programs, and some some of that is where we pay into Social Security and is for retirement. But then all the other programs that come along with it, like Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, the free housing, the medical, and all this for people that don't work. But what does the Bible say about that? So I'm going to read a passage from 2 Thessalonians 6 through 12. This will also be in the ESV. Let's see here. And it says, starting in verse 6, "Now we command you, brothers, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, that you keep away from any brother who is walking in idleness and not in accord with the tradition that you received from us. For you yourselves know how you ought to imitate us, but because we were not idle when we were with you, nor did we eat anyone's bread without paying for it, but with toil and labor we worked night and day, that we might not be a burden to any one of you. It was not because we do not have the right, but to give you in ourselves an example to imitate. For even when we were with you, we would give you this command: if anyone is not willing to work, let him not eat. For we hear that some among you walk in idleness, not busy at work, but busy bodies. Being busy at work and busybodies are not the same thing. Now such persons we command and encourage in the Lord Jesus Christ to do their work quietly and earn their own living. So here it talks about verse 6. First of all, don't hang around with lazy people. You're just encouraging that stuff. We're to get around other hardworking people and surround yourself by that. In verse 7, 8, and 8, it talks that we're supposed to set an example and not take a free handout there. He says that while they were with him, they worked and they did not take any food without paying for it. So earning your own way. And then it goes on down there in verse 10, it says, those who don't work, don't eat. Now, also in the Bible, it talks about us taking care of, the disabled, the widows, poor, and all. And so there is a time and a place when we are supposed to take care of, like elderly, their spouse dies and they're unable to take care of themselves and things like that. This is talking about able-bodied people. And so I'm certainly not talking about somebody who's been in a car accident and paralyzed and can no longer work, or a senior citizen that's a widow, things like that, where it is 100% appropriate for them to take a handout, and it is very appropriate for us as Christians to help them. But we're talking about able-bodied, and even when people get injured, there's always something somebody can do. We, in this country, there's too much people that are quote unquote disabled by the system, but they're not really disabled. And they get a free ride rather than doing anything. And I believe with my heart that is a detriment to the person, because it goes on to talk about, and we're going to read in another passage where we get some enjoyment from work. And when you give a person a free ride and they don't have to work and earn anything, you're also taking away that joy of productivity. Everybody listens to this podcast likes woodworking. And just think about how much joy you get out of going out in your shop, working with your hands, making something, and then seeing that finished product. Even though I might complain about climbing ladders and standing on steps all day and my feet hurting, at the end of my day of work, I get to see the vehicle wrap or the sign installed or whatever it is that I produced, and get the joy from knowing that I did that. Same thing with Will in his IT job. Recently they had a thing, and it's about protecting the computer system from fraud and hacks and all that. He gets a joy, even though it's a hard, long day at work, a toy. At the end of that, gets the joy of seeing, man, all this knowledge and time and effort that I put into this is work. We were able to recover the system and get everything up and running. And so while there's pain and suffering in our work, there's also the joy that we get from the finished product. And if you don't work, you don't get to get the joy of the finished product of your work. So you're stealing something from a person when you give them a free ride and take that, what really is a gift. And we'll talk about that later, the gift of work. But then on down in verse 12, it tells us to work quietly and earn our own living. And so each of us are designed to work for the Lord, to work hard, not take free handout, but go out there and work quietly, work with our hands, work with all our might, and earn our own way. So let's talk about those greedy corporations and billionaires, Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and Elon Musk and all the other ones. I don't know all their names. But what does the word say about rich people? Now, obviously, the word doesn't talk about Walmart and Amazon, but it does talk about the rich. I'm going to read a passage. This one, I'm going to hop over into my NLT. I just like the way this passage is worded in a few areas there. So I'm going to read Ecclesiastes, starting in chapter 2, verse 22, and I'm going to read through 3, verse 13. A little bit longer passage, but it has a lot of key points here that talk about work, talk about seasons of life, talks about the rich, and so on. So starting there in Ecclesiastes 2, verse 22, it says, "So what do people get in this life for all their hard work and anxiety? Their days of labor are filled with pain and grief. Even at night, their minds cannot rest. It is all meaningless. So I decided there's nothing better than to enjoy food and drink and to find satisfaction in work. Then I realized that these pleasures are from the hand of God. For who can eat or enjoy anything apart from Him? God gives wisdom, knowledge, and joy to those who please Him. But if a sinner becomes wealthy, God takes the wealth away and gives it to those who please Him. This too is meaningless, like chasing the wind." On in chapter 3, starting verse 1, it talks about time for everything. For everything there is a season, a time for every activity under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to cry, a time to laugh, a time to grieve, and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to turn away, a time to search and a time to quit searching, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be quiet and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. What do people really get for all their hard work? I have seen the burden God has placed on us all, yet God has made everything beautiful for its own time. He planted eternity in the human heart, but even so, people cannot see the whole scope of God's work from beginning to end. So I concluded there is nothing better than to be happy and enjoy ourselves as long as we can. And people should eat and drink and enjoy the fruits of their labor, for these gifts are from God. So, starting there in verse 22, it says, we are going to have pain and grief from our work. We live in a broken world. And so whether you work for Amazon, Walmart, or some other corporation or some other rich person, or have your own business, there is going to be pain and suffering in our work. Work wasn't designed to be a piece of cake. And for those of you who have ever worked on a crazy hard project, and then when you finish, and I'll use that French drain I had to dig last year. My goodness, I couldn't tell you how much sweat. Ended up having a mild heat stroke or heat exhaustion from it. Got sick, but it was a massive project. But now we have a beautiful yard that the water drains insanely well from. So we get to go out there every day, and I like getting on the grass barefooted. So is my daughter. And we'll kick the soccer ball around on our beautiful grass, throw the ball with our dog. But there was an insane amount of hard work that went into digging that French drain, getting that done, then planting all the grass, doing the sod work, the landscaping, the fence, all of it. An insane amount of hard physical labor. An insane amount of time invested that I really would like to have gone done something fun. But there's a reward at the end. And that's the same with our jobs. And then we might look at it as the pain and suffering is all day long, but then the reward's the paycheck. But if that's what it is, and the paycheck puts food on your table or pays for your child to go to college or whatever the case might be, there's a period, as it talks about, a time for everything of pain and suffering, but then there's a reward, and God gives us both. Down in verse 24, it says, enjoy the rewards of your labor, for it is from God. And so we're to remember that, whatever it is we're doing, while we might feel like it's just pain and suffering all the time, there is a time to enjoy the rewards, whether that's a nice meal around your table with your family, or going on a vacation with them, or seeing your daughter walk across the stage for graduation. Enjoy those rewards, because the reward, while the job came from God, the reward also came from God. Down in verse 26, it says, it is up to God who he gives wealth to, or who he takes it from. And so he talks there where it says, God gives wisdom, knowledge, and joy to those who please him. But if a sinner becomes wealthy, God takes the wealth away and gives it to those who please him. So remember how we were designed for work. We're designed to work for the Lord. But there it says that there are sinners that become wealthy. And while we might sit here and look at, some of the billionaires in this country and say, why is God allowing that person? And I would use Bill Gates as example out of all of them. A lot of people don't like Jeff Bezos, but why are they allowed to have all these billions of dollars? Well, there are Christians and non-Christians that have jobs because of Microsoft, because of Amazon, because of Walmart or Tesla, all these companies, these billionaires own. So through what they do, even though they might not be Christians, it's not for me to decide if they are or not, and we might see evil that they're doing, we can also see good that comes through it. And so we could use Will as an example. I know that Will uses a lot of PCs at work. Well, the original computers and all developed by Bill Gates in his garage, and then he grew that corporation. Now those computers and Microsoft is in every single business just about in America, and that creates IT jobs. And so while we might not like what Bill Gates is doing and that fact that he has all that money and he could do a lot more good through it, things that God allowed him to do and has created other opportunities. And for people like Will is able to provide a good living for his family by being an IT director at a big bank. And that would not exist if computers and computer networking had not come along. And so same thing with Amazon. I mean, I know people that deliver packages for Amazon. Well, if Amazon didn't exist, they wouldn't have those jobs. And so you have to kind of remember to look at, we can't see it. We don't have that 50,000 foot bird's eye view, or 50 million billion mile bird's eye view like God does, and know the whole entire plan. But God can bring good out of evil and everything for his glory. And then remember also this. So some of those billionaires are evil. Some of them are good. And you might ask yourself, well, I'm a good person. Why haven't I become a billionaire? Well, remember the parable of the 10 talents where the guy gave 10 talents to 3 different people. One of them buried it. One of them went out, made it grow a little. Another one doubled it. And so each of us are given things by God. And, we're given our time, We're given our talents, our money, the tools in our shop. So my question for you is, if you think about the parable of the talent, what have you done with what God gave you? Because it says, with those who do good with little, more is given to them. And so I think Dave Ramsey's a great example. And so if you ever, those of you who don't listen, Dave Ramsey, he went bankrupt. This was before he was a Christian, I think, and in real estate and all. Well, then he went bankrupt, and then I believe he came to know the Lord after that bankruptcy, or maybe he knew him but wasn't really following Christ. I don't remember the whole story. But now he employs an insane amount of people, has built a corporation, and has helped just thousands and thousands and thousands of people. I'd probably say hundreds of thousands of people get out of debt. And he is an example. He has a lot of money, obviously. But he is a great example of he has taken what God has given him and made more of it, and God continues to bless him. And he talks about tithing and giving to other charities. And, his big thing is like step 7 is to get out of debt and just be insanely generous. And you could do that when you make a lot of money and are out of debt. You could be insanely generous. So there are those that are like that, and then there's that are greedy. But God still brings good out of both of them. But rather than being one of the commandments, don't covet. Last one. So rather than coveting and being jealous of what Bill Gates and Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Donald Trump or whoever else that you're jealous of, ask yourself, what have I done with what God has given me? Have I made the most of it? And I'm going to say that for myself, I could have done better with this. I don't think I have been a good manager of all the time God has given me. And same thing of my talents and money. I think fear has gotten in my way of taking risk and going for it. And at other times I have taken risk and prospered. But have you been a good steward of your time, money, tools, etc.? And rather than being jealous or coveting what someone else has, let's look at it and say, hey, what can I do better today to grow what God has given me? And then the other thing it talks about is a time for everything. It says there in verse 2 of chapter 3, there's a time to plant and a time to harvest. And the one thing I see about America and humans in general is we love the harvest. Man, everybody in America wants the harvest. They want the fruit that comes from the labor. They just don't want the labor. And that's not the way God designed it. We were designed to work, and then we were designed to enjoy the fruit of that labor. And then I think there are those of us that are workaholics that work. And I think it's important for us to remember what it said there in Exodus in the 10 Commandments. We are to work 6 days, and then we are to take a day of rest. And then it tells us there at the end of this passage there to enjoy the fruits of the labor, for these are the gifts from God. So the labor's from God. Your opportunity to work is from God. But then also the gift of the fruits of that labor are from God. And so we need to remember that, thanking for both the job, the pain and suffering you're going through your work, and then thanking for the reward. And if you have a hard time because it seems like there's so much pain and suffering, I encourage you to start your prayer time giving thanks. And just start giving thanks. Lord, thank you I have a roof over my head. Lord, thank you that roof is not leaking. Lord, thank you that we have food in our refrigerator and my family's not going hungry tonight. Thank you so much that my wife and daughter and me have clothes on our backs, and thank you that we have transportation to get to work and to school. Thank you for the land that we have and the ability to grow out and grow lettuce and tomatoes and feed our family. Thank you for the chickens in the back that lay eggs daily and provide us with food, and so on and so on and so on. And if you do that, it will start to change your perspective on the pain and suffering of the labor. And just give thanks for whatever opportunity it is that you have to work every day, because work is a good thing. It was designed by God for us so that he could then reward us with the fruits of that labor. So remember to thank him for both. Well, that was what's been on my heart, because I just kind of get irritated with the news and people complaining about work. And but speaking of work, I talked about a second job. So as you know, if you've been listening to the past podcast, my wife's mom has stage 4 cancer, and her time is tied up with that and caring for her, and then of course caring for our home and everything. My wife does an amazing job. I would eat dinner off of our floors. My wife keeps our house spotless, and she cooks great meals for us and takes care of us. And I never have to go in my closet and say I don't have a piece of clean clothing to wear. And then she takes care of her mom and all that. So I'm the sole breadwinner in the house, and I have worked and saved over my lifetime, but I didn't save enough. In my younger years, that's one thing I'm trying to encourage my daughter in, and she's doing a great job, is to save young. And for those of you who are young, even if it's just taking an extra $20 a month, which might not seem like it adds up over time, just save as much as you can and prepare for the future. I did not prepare properly for my daughter to go to college and then go on to get her doctorate in physical therapy. And so I have seen my savings just dwindle as I pay for her to go to school. And I just kept praying about it and talking about it. And so I felt like I needed to get another job and just supplement my income. In North Carolina, I had a great business. I knew everybody where I lived, and I didn't have to advertise. It's just I had such a good reputation and so many customers. I lived off referrals. And when you move to a new town and know absolutely no one, and you move into a smaller town where everybody already knows each other, it's much harder to start a business than in a place where you know people, because, we all like to support our friends and family, and that is human nature, and that's 100% what I do. If I need something, first thing I do is, all right, who do I know that provides that product or service? And I shop with family and friends first. But my business has not grown at the pace here that I needed it to, and I've not made that. It certainly is paying our family bills. If my daughter weren't in college, I would not need another job. I make plenty enough to take care of our family and put some money in savings, but not enough to pay $23,000 in tuition every year on top of everything else, with a rising cost of insurance and everything else, and property taxes going up. So I decided to get a second job, and I wanted something that would allow me. I didn't want to go take a 9-to-5 job, because that would mean, unless somebody paid me an insane amount of money, that would mean giving up my business, because if I'm busy with that 9-to-5, how am I going to go do signs and other stuff? So I was brainstorming and praying. It's like, what can I do to bring some additional income in without giving up all of my time to do signs? Because when I do signs, I do make good money, but it's just I don't have a consistent full schedule every week, and that's what hurts. And so as I'm wrapping buses a couple months ago, I'm talking to some of the bus drivers in there, and every time I go down there, I notice that there's some new guy. They're training somebody new. I was like, man, y'all sure do have a high turnover down here. He's like, yeah, people come here, get their free CDL because they have a training program there. So they train you and pay for your CDL. And people get it and then leave and go somewhere else to make more money. And I was like, where are you guys hiring right now? And I prayed about it, and I felt like God told me to put in an application. So I put in an application to be a bus driver for the city, and then eventually got called and hired. And the great thing about it, once I finish the training program, is I'll either go in at 4 o'clock in the morning and get off at noon, or go in at noon and get off at a little after 8 at night. And so I'll either have all morning or all afternoon that I can still install signs. And the buses run Monday through Saturday, so you're always guaranteed to be off on Sunday. Whereas if you get a job at Lowe's or Home Depot, they want you working on Sunday, and I didn't want to do that. I want my Sundays off. And so it's Monday through Saturday job, and then you get Sunday plus 1 day off during the week. So it gives me another day during the week I can still do sign work. And they have health insurance, 401k, all that, 401k match type stuff. So I am in a training program to be a bus driver. So in a couple weeks when I finish and pass my CDL, I'm hoping I get the early morning shift where I can go in and probably in the initial, I will probably have to work the afternoon shift until I gain a little seniority. But you get the same identical schedule for 3 months. Every 3 months they change it, so it can alternate which routes you're driving or whether you're morning or afternoon. But I'll be guaranteed 1 day off during the week, plus I'll have my day off on Sunday, and then I'll have either mornings or afternoons that I continue doing sign work and working on the farm. So that is what has been consuming my job. And people keep asking, it's like, dude, that's going to kill. How you going to do 2 jobs? I'm like, and I think back to this passage in Ecclesiastes. There's a time for everything and a season for everything. And I don't plan to work 2 jobs and work 16 hours a day the rest of my life. But this is an opportunity that I believe God has given me to do 2 things. One, ensure my daughter graduates debt-free. And 2, another opportunity for ministry. Ironically, during the training program, the person training with me, sitting right beside me, is a Michelle, is the individual's name. And Michelle, I think, used to be Michael. It's a former, if you want to call it that, man who now identifies as Michelle and looks like a man, talks like a man, built like a man, but has a woman's name and a set of boobs. So if you get what I'm saying. And, needless to say, all corporations now have you have to be kind. You can't say the wrong pronouns and all this stuff. And when I first walked in, it's very uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie about it. But then I was like, okay, God, there is a reason why you put me here in this stupid, awkward position. And so I have just been kind and talking and calling Michelle. And I am praying that there's going to be an opportunity one day where I can share the gospel with him or her or whatever, however you want to call it. And then on the buses, I've been finally started driving on the road and been observing routes and the enormous amount of homeless people that ride the bus system. And there's not any rich Jeff Bezos hopping on and riding the public transit system, if you know what I mean. So a lot of opportunity to minister to the poor, the homeless, people that have jobs and are working, but they can't afford a car and car insurance. And so their means of transportation is taking the bus to get to work. I also rode the bus this week with 3 older people, senior citizens that are retired, that that's their mode of transportation. They don't have cars. And they were riding the bus, and it's like, where are you headed to? Oh, we're just out for a ride. So they meet together and go ride the bus to different places around town for entertainment. They say, yeah, we get tired of sitting at home, so we come, and sometimes we'll just ride a route or two just to see scenery, because we do live in a beautiful area. So even though, most of it rides through the city, there are some routes that take you out in the countryside. It's actually beautiful scenery to go drive a bus through, getting from the small areas to the other. And I find that so funny, but I had such a nice conversation with these ladies, and they told me, said, we got our favorite drivers. Some of them aren't that good, but I got a good feeling you're going to be a good one. So I think I'm thanking God for the financial extra to come in and help me pay for my daughter's tuition. I'm also thankful for the opportunities this can provide, because you're sitting in a chair all day long driving, constantly meeting new people, and you might be the only smile they see that day. So be praying for me. Number one, that I have the physical stamina to go drive 8 hours and then go install signs, but that the ministry opportunities would be there, and that I would shine the light in a dark place, and like it tells us to do in Matthew. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you're in a work situation that you're maybe not super happy about, just try to find some thanks in it. What it's providing, what ministry opportunities it's providing, and just give thanks. And remember, God designed us to work. He designed us to work for His glory. He designed us to work hard, and He designed us to do it with all our might, and give thanks to Him for it. So give thanks this week, and go work hard for the Lord. Until next time, I am Tom from Mountain Valley Maker.